Welcome everyone. I think this is not the first time I'm here, so maybe there are some familiar faces. Okay, so basically today I'm going to talk about digital banking and disruptions and transformations of digital banking in Malaysia. So if you're not familiar with who we are, I just tell you roughly what the banks do, all right? Especially if you want to take a loan. You know, you actually get an application, you wait for approval, and then of course you've got to pay back the loan, you know, and they'll disperse the loan and you have to pay up. So behind all of these activities, right, obviously it's not working. The slides. Nope. Behind all these activities is a large workforce one, especially in banks, there are thousands of people. So what happens is that they actually need software for you to actually like create the application, do all the loan underwriting to decide that if you want 10 million ringgit, can they really give you the 10 million ringgit? Are you really what you call credit worthy? And to automatically disperse it, you don't expect human beings to be doing everything. So the automation behind that is actually done by our company for many of the banks in Malaysia. And we have some banks that are some other presence worldwide as well. So the name of our company is called JurisTech. And so we offer a lot of B2B solutions, which means that we sell to banks. We sell to fintechs. We also sell to credit leasing companies. So if you are getting even all your device financing, you go somewhere and get a bike, get a fridge, probably we are the ones that's actually powering the software behind it. Okay, so since we are doing B2B, we are not really doing B2C, which means that we don't do consumer business. You know, we don't actually sell anything to consumers. But it changed in August 2020. We actually have an associate company or acquired company last time called iMoney, and we are still running iMoney. iMoney is a lead aggregator that brings the consumers to the banks. And why do we do that? Because we want to understand more of the consumer behavior and be able to facilitate end-to-end. Okay, but today I'm not talking about my company, so we're going to talk about digital transformation. What is digital transformation? So recently my daughter turned 16. Okay, and then she said, Mommy, I want to go to university. Then she said she really hates maths. I said, okay. I said, what do you want to do? I want to do IT, okay? IT in digital transformation. So we went to one of the universities, you know, they have all these ambassadors, and it's a student. So my daughter asked, what is digital transformation? And that guy gives such a brilliant answer that I want to share the answer with you. You know what's the answer? He said, just add an E in front of everything. Okay, what does that mean? It's true, because for example, if you talk about books, digital transformation is e-books. You talk about commerce, digital transformation is e-commerce. You know, you talk about filing, e-filing, billing, e-billing. So you can imagine just adding an E on top, you can actually talk about digital transformation. So the era of digital banking is really the era of e-banking. And what are the opportunities? If you look at it, actually banks should look at changing their business model, because a lot of banks, their business model is still very branch-centric. I think you know, right? You want to open an account, you want to take a loan, they say, can you please come to my bank, you know, because we need to do KYC and a lot of other things. We need all your pay slips and everything else, and you have to go to the bank. Imagine if this can be an e-business model where we're just not talking about the transaction. The whole banking business is about e-business. And of course, we talk about e-operations, which means that, you know, it's branchless. We talk about instant fund transfers, etc. And then e-talent management. Do you know what's happening now is that we're having in this era of, I think you guys have heard, the Great Resignation, which means that lots of people after the pandemic decides that, actually, I like to work from home, I like to do other things, I want to change my life. And they are willing to trade their work for something else. So what we have done, we have done hybrid work environment, which means that you can work from home and work in the office. And we are actually hiring talent from overseas and anywhere. Guess what? Other people are also doing that. So, and then of course we talk about e-technology. What is e-technology? You know that we actually have some smaller companies also use our software. Then during the pandemic, we realized that none of them are paying us. Then we asked them, why are you not paying me? Because we have to go to the office, we got to open the office, we got to, what do you call that? Make payment to the office, go and enter all the invoices and all that. Why can't you do it online? Can't you do it using cloud-based solution? So you can see that's where the E comes in. So there is triple tipping point threats on traditional financial firms. If you look at it, you know that we have something called fiat currency, which means that your money, the paper money, and just now I think what Swiss was saying, what money are you using? You're actually using e-money. If I want to find out how much money you have, you want to transact, you actually open up your e-wallet and even your bank statement and all that. You are not going to keep, let's say if I give you 1 million ringgit, are you going to keep it at your home underneath the pillow? No, you put in a bank, right? And the only time you know how much in your bank is when you go into your account. That's the e-money part. And then of course, what's next in terms of financial transactions? I would say what's next, obviously you can see that it's going to be smart money, which means that we are looking at blockchains, crypto and all those things. So, and after that, what's after that? What's after that is actually what you call, how can everyone be able to participate, not through a bank, through a decentralized economy. And that one I will cover later on. Okay, so now let's go back to present time. Okay, instead of talking about the trends, Bank Negara recently just issued 5 digital banking license. Okay, and the purpose of this digital banking license is because of 3 reasons. Number 1, they want to encourage financial inclusion. They also want to target the underserved customers and also to power the economy of the country. Why? Because if you look at it, 40% of our GDP actually comes from SMEs, and they employ 70% of the workforce. So you can see what happened during the pandemic was that 37,000 SMEs actually went out of business. So how are we going to help them? And that's the reason why Bank Negara did that. But you know why? If you are an SME, right, I can tell you how banks evaluate credit. You have never taken a loan before, so they'll say that, hey, I don't really know whether you can pay back. So they're not going to give you money. If you're a mom and pop shop selling very, very good curry pop and all those kind of stuff, and your business is growing, but you need the capital, the banks are not going to give you money. Why? Because they have no way to evaluate you. Okay, so these guys are the ones in which we are saying that it's okay if you don't have existing credit, we are going to give you a chance. And that's where the digital banking guys come in. And how can they do that? Because most banks will, for example, for SMEs, you need to be at least a 3-year startup. Your business needs to be profitable. But so, let's say if you don't fulfill that criteria, you go to the digital bank, why would they give you a loan? It's because they are going to reduce the amount of the loan. For personal loan, normally, even you go to a bank, it will be 50,000, 150,000, you can take a personal loan, right? But here they're going to say, hey, you need a working capital loan of 10,000 ringgit, 5,000 ringgit. They are not even talking about the scale of 50 to 100,000. So they are willing to take this type of risk. And that's the purpose is for financial inclusion. And then you can see that the reason why now we say that it's ripe now is because you look at the Malaysia's internet connectivity and penetration. You know that now also because of the pandemic, even my father actually uses my Sejahtera, my mom, everyone's starting to use wallets, etc. Okay, so who are the digital banking license players? So these are the people that you guys are very familiar with. Of course, you realize that most digital banking players have the tech part and the financing part. So you can see like the first one is of course Boost, which is working with RHB. Then the other one is the one that you guys really like just now. You say Grab. Okay, you use everything in Grab. They partner with Singtel. And then of course, then you have C. Anybody knows who is C or not? Shopee. So Shopee actually managed to get a digital banking license. And then of course, Aeon Credit. Aeon Credit, everybody knows. They work with Money Lion. Money Lion is a tech provider that one of the founders is actually Malaysian. But they actually provide software in the US. So they're going to use their technology. And of course, the one that all of us were very, very surprised was when CAF, which is actually the one that's providing the financing, partner with Money Match, Kasem, and Jernexu, which is Ringgit Plus. So that means that now we also have fintechs that's actually going into this game as well. Okay, so now how can these digital banks encourage financial inclusion? First is that I think that the era of using your own banking app, I think you guys have used internet banking and mobile banking, it's very, very hard to use. Now they're going to talk about, oh, I'm going to create intuitive, hyper-personalized customer journeys. So these guys will actually change the game to cater for a different audience. Hopefully, they also realize that if you go to B40, a lot of them may not have very sophisticated smartphones. If you ask them to download apps and all that, that might be a problem as well. Okay, then of course, you need to educate on financial literacy. If you're selling insurance, you need to tell people why do you need to buy insurance. All these people that are underserved, they might say, hey, I don't even have money, to survive the next few months. Why should I consider insurance? So that's where financial literacy comes in. Whether they should save money, what is it that they should do? Then finally, we need to leverage on data analytics, which means that you need to know who you want to serve and target all these customers. Okay, so here, what does it mean by intuitive, hyper-personalized customer journey? I give you one example and you know what it is already. Okay, everybody has Netflix, right? So imagine every time I go to Netflix, if I watch one type of movie, suddenly lots of different movies pop up and I'm like, oh, endless Korean movies, example, Korean dramas. Or let's say you go to YouTube, and I watch, how to cook this type of recipe. Thousands of other recipes appear. Why? Because they are using data to hyper-personalize your experience. So in future, banks and all these digital banks shouldn't be about, I choose which product. They should know your profile and suddenly say, hey, this is what I recommend for you and this is what you should do next. This is also a bit about like what robo-advisors are doing now also. They don't ask you how do you want to invest. They just find out your risk profile. They will choose the products for you. So that's hyper-personalization. Of course, when you talk about financial literacy, you can see that we have iMoney, right? What iMoney does is that we talk a lot about what you should know about how to keep track of your finances, what you should do next and all that. And that's also very important link, because personal finance habits of Malaysians have not improved since 2019. 53% of respondents could not survive more than 3 months with their savings. That's the reason why during the pandemic, you saw all these white flag movements in which I've also contributed, and actually I had a cleaner and, she doesn't need to clean my office anymore. So, and she also sometimes come to clean my house. And during lockdown, she doesn't come to clean my house also. Can you imagine first time I have to wash so many toilets and I have to wash it every single week, okay? So what happened was, so I sent her some money and I asked her, she doesn't have a bank account. So I have to ask my driver to actually send money to her. Then she called me. I didn't have a number. She found my number and called me. She said that, ma'am, do you know I only have 150 ringgit left. I've just been eating rice. So we do not know that a lot of people actually cannot survive because they don't have financial literacy. They spend everything that they have, Then of course, how is Malaysian, faring as compared to our neighboring countries in terms of digital banking? I would say the most advanced, you guys can guess who, which country? Singapore. Singapore is always, the one that we're going to catch. Everyone else is playing catch up. Indonesia is a bit strange because they didn't issue digital banking licenses. They said the existing banks can create digital banks provided they fulfill certain criteria. But since Singapore started doing this, you can see that, Thailand, Philippines, Malaysia is following suit. But Singapore started in 2020, which means that we are really playing catch up. And even though these 5 digital banking license providers that we say, right, you haven't seen their apps appear yet because only after it's announced, they will probably take 6 to 9 months to go and figure out how they're going to start offering these type of products to the consumers. Okay, so now what are the disruptive tech trends that's actually happening? You'll be surprised, right? Since I'm talking about digital banks, I'm talking about Web 3.0 because a lot of us are not familiar with what is happening with other parts of the world. And I think Laura was telling me you had some talk about blockchain. Don't worry, I'm not going to teach you how to invest in cryptocurrency and show you how to invest, okay? I'm just going to talk about the technology because a lot of people confuse blockchain with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. they think that since the cryptocurrency is coming down, it's going to be the demise of blockchain. Blockchain is different. Blockchain is the technology that's powering the cryptocurrency. And this technology is going to change banking in future. Okay, so I think you guys know what is Web 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. Of course, we are still at 2.0. You know, Web 1.0 was like static web pages, right? But that's when internet first came up and we say, what's this internet, you know? And then we were using the telephone cables to power the internet. Now, instead, we're using data networks and our telephone rides on top. So that's how internet has changed our lives. I think you guys know also, right? But Web 2.0 is when we are more information centric, and all these powerhouses, which is all these Google, Amazon, all these guys, they became super powerful because guess who is the product? It's not the internet. We become the product. Every time we use anything, they're going to make money out of it. All the e-commerce guys, they are making money out of our product and the behavior. Okay, and then for us also, even for iMoney, we spend a lot of money on buying Google ads, making sure we target the right segment, etc. Then the last one is Web 3.0. What's the difference? Is that Web 3.0 is when we have decentralization, which means that we don't want, and that's the reason why I say banks will be disrupted. You know why? The reason why blockchain existed is they say there are too many powerhouses, they have central power. They want to take away this power and decentralize it. And that's the purpose of actually blockchain. Okay, so trends to watch, I would say in Web 3.0, you can see that this is what we call Gartner. Gartner is actually a research company that tells you what's going to happen in the future. Okay, so if you look at Gartner, the first thing it says is that in future for banks, right, you'll see there will be banking API aggregators. So for those of you who do not know what it means, I'll just speak in very layman language. Let's say if I see someone, or a guy sees a girl, you know, the girl can only speak French and he only speaks Cantonese. They cannot talk to each other. The only way they can talk to each other if there's a translator. That's what the API does. So in future, most banks should have all these translators so that any company can talk to banks. And that is one of the trends that's coming up, obviously. Then the other future trend, I would say 5 years later that's going to happen, is this one. It's actually decentralized finance. Okay, what is decentralized finance? It's already happening now, in which there's no banks, there's just a group of programmers writing a lot of algorithms and people invest in it. And that's how, you know, like just not like we heard about the Terra Luna crash, which you guys are probably familiar with. 45 billion ringgit was invested and it was wiped out. Why did people invest in Luna? Because they said you get 20% returns on your deposits. Who can give you 20% return? So all these things is actually happening in terms of decentralized finance. Okay, then the last one is, so what does this mean, the trends to watch? So just now I was talking about this blockchain. Actually blockchain, since everyone here is probably familiar with it and you had the blockchain talk, it's very simple. You know, for us, if I want to find out how much money you have, you go and actually go and look at your ledger, your bank balance and all that. That's like a ledger, right? But imagine blockchain means that I don't have the ledger, the bank don't have the ledger, they don't control it. Thousands of people actually have the ledger. The minute I send something to Laura, that ledger is sent to thousands of people. So it becomes what we call immutable. You cannot take out the ledger and it becomes something that's trustless. You know that it's true that I actually transferred money to Laura. No one can actually do something about that. So that's what blockchain is. And blockchain now runs on what we call smart contracts. And how will this change finance? Because for example, next time if I buy a house, right? And I say that, hey, okay, Laura, I'm going to buy the house from you. So it's not, you know, now if I want to buy a house, I go and see a real estate agent, okay? The real estate agent will go and say, hey, you go enter the booking form. I give you the money and they say, oh, it's already booked already. No one can actually take it away. Then once I pay a 10% deposit, they'll say, okay, I'm going to do the loan. I'm going to do the SPA and all that, the sales and purchase agreement. The minute I've completed everything, the house title belongs to you. Imagine if I don't have people and all these things is done via program, which is called smart contract. The minute I give you 10%, oh, the loan is going to start. The minute I give you 100%, the sales and purchase agreement and also the transfer of the title actually goes to you. All this done without humans. That's how the future might look like. And in terms of insurance, to give you an example of insurance, imagine now, right, for you to buy insurance and you're a very small company or you're a farmer, it's very hard to buy insurance. Like if you go to an insurance company, they ask you to do KYC, which is like know your customer. Then they ask you for all your documents and all that. But on the blockchain, they just say, everybody give me $10. So, okay, I'm going to put $10 every single month. But because this is crop insurance, they say that flood insurance, in case there's a flood, right? After 5 days of flood, pay me back. Normally, the insurance company will send adjusters, find out whether should I pay you for the policy or not. But here, the minute they have these things called Oracle services, which means that to connect to the internet, to a real world, to say that, hey, the raindrop has exceeded certain millimeters every single day for the past 5 days. The minute that happens, your claim is processed and you actually get your money. You don't need any humans. That's where it becomes powerful and cross-border because it makes it accessible to everyone and it's easier. There's no intermediary earning more money from you. Okay, that's the oops part that I heard. Okay, so, and something else that might happen that's also a bit scary is what I call central bank digital currency. Actually, what happened is this blockchain thing, you might think is not coming, right? But I tell you, 80% of most of the banks, central banks in the world, are actually piloting or doing research on blockchain. You know why? Because they are saying that if they can run this blockchain, they don't need banks, everyone can just have wallets and they can actually, their currency can run on it. So what does that mean? You know that, okay, this is the part that gets a bit more complicated. So you know they're saying, hey, how can you run a blockchain? With this cryptocurrency going up and down, how can we actually trust it? This central banks is going to run on something called stable coin. Stable coin is what crashed Luna, but this is a separate one. I'll explain first. This stable coin means that it's pegged to the currency of the country. So if Malaysia is going to run a blockchain that's running a central bank digital currency, it's going to peg to the ringgit. So which means that it's going to be stable. But you don't need banks in order to deposit your money because all of us will have a wallet. The wallet won't be touch and go or grab. Your country wallet is actually accessible to everyone. But when that happens, the problem, of course, is privacy because, you know, if it's centralized, right, it's not exactly decentralized. They'll know everything that you are doing. They can say that, hey, I can actually tax you as you go. I don't actually need for you to even file your taxes. Okay, so, and China is the one that actually pushed for this digital yuan and they're already piloting it. Malaysia is also piloting it with Singapore and some other countries in South Africa, I think. Okay, so trends to watch. The third one is actually the Metaverse. Okay, so now to keep everyone awake, what is the Metaverse? Anyone have kids or not? A lot of people have kids. My kid, whole day she's playing this thing called Roblox. Okay, so Roblox is actually a Metaverse. But Roblox is a Web 2.0 Metaverse. But now they have those Web 3.0 Metaverse, which is running on blockchain. And one of them is called Sandbox, right? So you see what happens in this Metaverse, right? Is that so much money is transacted via the Metaverse. And why are they transacting so much money? Okay, let me show you an example of a Metaverse that my office is using. So most of the time you come to my office, right? Because we are working from home, we actually have to log into our virtual office. We actually create our own avatar one. And then you see here, this is Laura. I asked her to take some pictures. So you see she's walking. She can go to pre-sales Metaverse. She can go to any of the departments Metaverse. They all create their own lands. And then this one is, this is actually pre-sales. So Laura has gone to one of the offices. So if you see here, right, you can see that they created their own cubicles. Everyone can decide what do I want to put in the cubicles. Okay, and obviously then she can come out and go to her own Metaverse, which is, this is actually where Laura and May, both of them are here. They created their own universe, which is the Metaverse. And this is an actual replica of our office where I sit. I will go into my own Metaverse. Okay, so why is this important? Let me ask you, when people see you on Facebook, on Telegram and all those things. Instagram, not Telegram, Instagram. Okay. Do you want to look good there? See, actually, all this, sometimes you see someone, you say, is this really you? I mean, a person. But basically, you actually want to look better in your virtual world than you are in person. So that's where all these, they call it non-fungible tokens. People can sell things to you to make you look good. Okay, so, and how is it related to banking? Guess what? Especially JP Morgan, they're a very, very big bank in the US, right? Even HSBC, they have invested in this metaverse. They say you can come to the metaverse and I can have a customer service officer talking to you, but it's actually, talking to your avatar. And the metaverse is also a heaven, and of course, blockchain for digital currencies. I can tell you that basically, I actually have a digital wallet that's on this Ethereum network. Okay, so if you don't know any of these things, fine. But what it means is that I can go into any of these metaverses or any of these worlds, right? And straight away, because I actually have my wallet actually is on my browser. So it will just suddenly appear and I go in there and say, hey, I want to play a game. Actually, a lot of online games, but it's gaming. Or I want to buy something. I want to invest. I can do that so easily and even without eKYC. What does that mean? You know that Malaysia, right? For all this crypto, you have Luno, tokenized, all that. These are exchanges which our countries say, yeah, you can actually have these exchanges. But when I register on some of these wallets, they only need my email address and my phone. They don't really know who I am. So because of that, I can just go trade anything that I want. So it's so easy for you just to actually create decentralized finance apps and suddenly you can reach the world because it supports all these things. Okay, and of course, if now we are saying that, hey, but is this metaverse thing for real? If you look at it, Facebook renamed themselves to Meta. And they say they're going to invest 180 billion US dollars in this metaverse. But guess what? They are racing against Microsoft. Because Microsoft, Microsoft has been investing into games, they actually they bought Minecraft. They recently bought Activision, and all those things. So it means that in future, the future of the internet and the banking may well be in the metaverse. Okay, so, and obviously just now I say you want to look good, right? Imagine you can have a digital twin in the metaverse. Now people start saying that, hey, you can actually buy a Nike shoe. Then they say this Nike shoe costs 1,500 US dollars, but it's going to make you really look good. And guess what? It's unique. Don't know what special edition. Do you think people are investing in it? They might invest in it. It's going to make you look good. Example. And of course, then Nike work with another company. Not only are they going to design all these shoes so that you look good in the metaverse, they're going to give you physical shoes also and sell it to you. So it's going to change the future of trading as well. Okay, so now let's go back to challenges faced when consumers want digital financial services. I would say there are a few challenges, especially in Malaysia. You know that in UK, there's that's where a lot of these neobanks and digital banks started. And the reason is because UK embraced something called open API. So remember just now I told you that, for you to talk to a French girl, you actually need to, don't need to learn French, you just need a translator. That's what the open API is. And I think Malaysia is slow in adopting open banking. I think places like UK, Singapore, Australia, they're all pushing for all this. And it's understandable why banks are not really wanting to go to open banking. Because imagine, right, now if you say Grab, right, they don't really know much about you and all this kind of stuff. But with open banking, you can say, hey, I can go and log into your bank account and I know how much expenses, everything. You yourself can actually give this information to people. So that's where I think in future, if we have all these things coming in, it will actually be better for us. But I realize that my time is actually up. So maybe last thing I want to say that the other problem is obviously the area of regulation and policies, because we have been trying to automate banks and get digital. So I will tell them, hey, why don't you use WhatsApp and Facebook to communicate with customers? And they'll say, that's a no-no. For now, it's a no-no. They're not sure whether, any of the American companies going to use our data or anything else. So that is some gray areas of regulation and policies that's not making it very consumer friendly. Okay, so with that, I think Swiss.
Thank you, Wai Hun. It's a
Yes.
very, it's very animated. What do you think? She deserves an applause.
Yeah.
Okay, Wai Hun, let's just have a seat, and then I have this first question. So
seat is it?
yes, have a seat. Okay, so if you recall, you said there was 5 recently given digital banking, and if you notice, right, that it was a collaboration between e-wallet or something that like Shopee, Grab, and a banking. Does that mean that in future that every time it will be like there's more promotion of consumerism? Because now you have on what the partners which are working together, those that got the digital license. On one hand, it's a bank, and the other partner is the one that encourages you to spend, like Shopee, ding, tell you spend. Then you have everyone will be spending a lot more.
I think instead of spending a lot more, I think there'll be more banking products that's more accessible to people. For example, now, right, like Touch and Go. Of course, Touch and Go didn't get any of this digital banking license, but you can see that you don't need to be a digital banking license holder to be able to provide financial services. So I think in future, maybe it's easier for you to like deposit money, take micro loans and all that with this. So that's really where they are heading, because if you look at Grab, Shopee and all that, they've already conquered this e-commerce and all these worlds. What they haven't done is monetize it by offering financial services. So that will probably happen more.
Okay, so this is if audience from the floor is interested to ask question, do raise your hands and we will have the mic passed to you. As well as those on Zoom, remember to type your questions down. We have slots for you as well. Okay, so the next question I have, Wai Hun, is that, okay, so now we have started with five with the digital banking license, right? Do you foresee in the future that it might be soon monopolized? There will be soon, like many things in this country, over time it becomes a monopoly and it becomes like a government link. Do you foresee that to happen?
Actually, I don't foresee that in the immediate future now, because you can see that everyone is vying for a space and everyone has something to play. If you look at it, like Aeon Credit, they have their own space, and if you look at Shopee also have their own space. So Boost also have their own space. So it's more like a fight for how can you actually reach out more and monetize and get more share of the wallet of the consumers that you actually have. For them to actually win, like Google and Amazon or that, all these Google and Amazon guys, they took years before they became a monopoly. So I don't think they'll become a monopoly yet.
Not so soon.
Yeah.
Not.
Yeah, and it's not going to be easy, because you know why? Because the banks are also coming up. The banks are also saying that I don't need a digital banking license, but now I'm going to do digital transformation.
Yeah, so then so what do you think will happen to all those conventional banks like Maybank, CIMB was not given the license?
Okay, so you see, Maybank and CIMB, they do not need the license because they can already provide deposits, loan, micro loans, and do all those things. So, but what's going to happen to them? I would say, like, for example, Bank Islam recently actually went and launched their own app, and they created a digital entity, within Bank Islam to actually reach out to this underserved. So they can easily do that. And I think many of the banks are actually looking to actually go to this segment because they know that digital banks are going to go to this segment that they normally don't serve. But to do that requires a huge culture change from the bank, because if I'm used to all your compliance policy and making it difficult for you by asking you for 5 or 10 different documents, and so much questions, for them to ask you less questions requires a change of mindset, which means normally they need to get different people to come and help them to transform.
Okay. Yes. So is there any questions from the, oh, yes. Okay, this question comes from, Okay. What? Not sure. The anonymous question. The person. Why is Open API a great choice for digital finance? With hyper financing, will people in financial industry be phased out eventually?
Okay, why is Open API?
A great choice for digital finance. You mentioned it earlier.
Okay. So you see, what happened is that, let's say, right, I'm a digital bank, right? And then I say that, oh, I want to lend you some money, but I have no idea about your spending patterns and all that. But with Open API, I can go and say, oh, your bank is Bank X. I can use an Open API to talk to your bank and say, this is your monthly expenses and this is what you do and all that, and this is your income. I have so much information that I can straight away assess you and decide and that I'm going to give you a loan straight away. So it makes it much more easier for someone who is a non banking partner to just launch into fintech services, because now I have consumer data. Before that, I don't have. Most of us may not have a credit card or especially underserved, but they might have a banking account.
Okay, and yes. So anyone from the audience, just raise your hands and we will pass the mic over. If you have a questions related to today's topic. Yeah. Okay, just yeah. Okay, so the next question, what value do you think that this banking license will add to the country's financial system? This one, I guess.
Just now we already mentioned that 40% of GDP is driven by all these SMEs with more than 70% employment offered by what do you call it, these SMEs. So if they don't have access to capital, they can't really grow. So now I hope with these digital banking licenses that more and more of these SMEs can have access to financing so that they can grow their company. So if they can do that, I think it will fuel the growth of the economy.
Yes. So yes.
Yes.
There's a question from.
For your talk, so you do see that the future will be big customers served by big banks, small customers served by the little banks, and so on, or do you see
Oh, no. You know why? Because we are doing a lot of banking services, right? We see now banks are starting to look at reducing their ticket size, and they themselves have departments that actually says that I'm going to do something digital to compete with these digital banks. So banks will also start looking at the underserved. But I think it takes a different mindset. That's why I say some of them actually hire different groups of people and they say, we're really going to do digital transformation.
So, sorry, another question. Does that mean also that foreign digital banks can come into Malaysia and bypass Bank Negara regulations?
If they are already a bank that's already serving in this country, you can see what the digital bank players do, right? For example, right? If I am Kasem, etc., and I want to offer deposits, I can't offer deposits because it's highly regulated. So now I can offer a deposit product because I actually have the license. So that's actually what changes. That Shopee can now say that, hey, you want to buy something? I'll offer you, not work with the BNPL players to offer you. I can offer you pre-approved credit. I can offer you, BNPL and all that. And all those merchants that they are serving now, because they actually know, how much transactions, all those things, they don't need to go and do a credit search. They're already existing customers. Here, this is how much working capital you need. I'm going to give you this working capital. I'm going to give you overdraft limit, pre-approved and all that. So that's how things are going to change. But the banks can already do that. They just don't want to go to this segment. Yeah.
Yeah, hi, I'm Samantha. So you mentioned just like the last part, there's a metaverse, a possible commerce coming up, right? How can you, or what do you think of how it will benefit the current SME for Malaysia, you know?
Actually, okay, actually this metaverse is actually slightly different in the sense that, I can tell you, for example, now, if let's say I want to take a loan now, and I still have to go and get banks to agree to give me a loan, look at my credit worthiness. But let's say I invested in crypto, okay? And then I have like say 10,000 ringgit worth of crypto. And then what happens is that, oh, suddenly an emergency came up. I either sell my crypto, but maybe it's bad to sell it now because it's gone down, right? But they have all these, we call it DeFi, platforms, which is a distributed finance platform, where I can go and say, hey, because I have my MetaMask, which is actually my wallet, and just go in and say, I want to take a loan. No questions asked, because they have this thing called liquidity pools, where I say that, oh, this guy says that I've put in 10,000 and I'm willing to give you an interest of 4%. And then I say, okay, I'm going to pledge my own cryptocurrency and take out 4%. And I can do it immediately. I can do it now within seconds. I don't need to go to a bank to actually do that. So a lot of people don't realize that all this is actually out there. Just like the same thing I told you, like the possibility of crop insurance and all that. So, and it's cross-border, which means that, I can just go into any of these worlds and say that, oh, you have this, I can do this, I can take a loan, I can invest and things like that. Yeah.
Question is that if this is so accessible even internationally, do you think it's going to bring competition to local bank? And another thing is that if it's accessible internationally, is it going to bypass the control of Forex as well?
Okay. Now, I don't think it will do anything because our trust is still, you see, everything about financial services is about trust. So that's what the blockchain is supposed to do, right? To actually, say that, hey, you can actually trust this. But because of all the things that happened recently, most people will say that, hey, number one, I don't really trust them, right? But the second thing that is happening is that we call it transaction fee. If let's say I want to go and just put $100 into a deposit, right? They'll charge me $5 to $10 because it's called gas fee or transaction fee. It's still very expensive on the Ethereum network. But guess what? They are coming out with a new protocol and things like that that's going to make it much, much cheaper. So once it becomes cheaper, then people will say, hey, it's good for me. But because now it's still expensive. So I don't see this intermediating. It's only for those people that, are brave and say that, yeah, I actually want to try all these things out.
Back on the ringgit, because we know ringgit always devalue. Can I back, like, even I'm Malaysian, I'm making income here in Malaysia. Can my metaverse like pack on the Sing dollars?
Oh, can, because you know why? If
that's the case, then nobody wants a ringgit.
Okay, so these are what you call stable coins, right? Where if I buy crypto, I can say that I want to go and buy one of these stable coins, and which is pegged to a currency one. But and the reason why they can do that is that some of these stable coins is actually backed by assets. But the one that happened, the Luna crash, was because it wasn't backed by assets, it was backed by algorithmic program. So it's possible, but the thing is, like I said, now with the transaction fees and everything else, you might have some hesitation. I think you still need to wait. With the metaverse, I mean, if you look at what Gartner predicts and everyone else predicting, they say, oh, by 2026, maybe 25% of our time is spent on the metaverse. But we are now at still at its, is it called infancy, where we need to wait for it to mature.
Hi, one more question. Do you foresee any changes in the way how the mortgage business will progress? Because I think right now everything is still done very in a very standard approach. People look at a CTOS, a CRIS. If you have a regular income, then you'll be approved, which I think also results in approval rate of only around 35% currently. So things what happens to the other 65%? Is there any other better way to go around it?
Okay, so for mortgages, I think you know there's multiple business models, just like the rent-to-own business model and all that. So what happens is that instead of saying that you take a loan, maybe a financial institution can say that I'm going to buy the property and actually rent it out to you via a lease. So it changes the whole property ownership, and because of Islamic financing, it's possible for you to say that, hey, as you pay more, example, you can start owning equity in the property. So that's maybe a change in terms of business model instead of just talking about is it a mortgage or a loan. Then of course the other thing that can probably happen if people talk about property investment, again, if you talk about all this blockchain stuff, right? You can see that, imagine if lots of people invest in a group of property like a REIT. And maybe because of that, we can say whatever earnings that we earn is actually distributed to everyone as well equally on the blockchain. So that's also another possibility. But all these are things that's actually happening in the future. But of course, blockchain may be also good for in terms of property ownership if all the title deeds or is recognized somewhere. But if it's not, you need to actually figure out how it changes the landscape.
Okay, we have the last question, and then
Miss Wai Hun.
Yes.
I'd like to know how is it recently a bank in Australia, Walt Bank, they call people to take back their money because they face bankruptcy. Walt Bank is on digital currency.
Okay, actually, here I would like to talk more, not just about the Vault Bank, but about digital banks. Actually, a lot of digital banks are not making money. And I can explain to you why digital banks, doesn't matter whether it's using cryptocurrency or not. Okay, you see, digital banks, remember, they are serving the underserved, right? So like the digital banks in, I would say like UK, there's a few digital banks there. So if you want to go and like use the services, you might like, oh, I went out with a few people for lunch, I'm going to split the bill. In my wallet, I can just quickly split the bill. But let's say the bill is $100. How much do you think that the bank is earning from the $100? Maybe at most $10 or $5. But when you want to go for a mortgage, do you go to these digital banks or you go to the traditional banks? You still trust the conventional banks, right? One house is worth $1 million or 500,000 now. Maybe you can find a 500,000 one, don't really care or not. And they're going to, the tenure is like 20 to 30 years or all that. They're going to make few 100,000 from you. They're not going to make the $10. So these digital banks are going after all these lifestyle transactions, which is going to make them very hard to earn money. That's the reason why a lot of them start with deposits first. The reason why they start with deposits is because they don't really know, especially you go underserved, they don't know whether you can pay, they want to see how much money you have. But once you start showing signs of how much money you have and all that, they might start offering you a loan, but they're offering you micro loans. The big banks are still going after the big bucks. So if they still focus on this segment and they're not able to pivot, it's very hard for them to actually make money. No, the digital banks like in Malaysia, I think after they have set up everything, it will be popular because just like your Touch and Go, you know, Touch and Go is not a digital bank, right? But the minute, of course, this also because of incentives, like remember last time you can get what, 50 ringgit free or whatever, Touch and Go. So, and then now like 250,000 merchants. It's more of network and how you want to play the model. Is using Touch and Go. And my daughter every time say, Mommy, just give me 50 ringgit, my Touch and Go. She can go to any of the merchants. So, in Malaysia, it is ripe for us to become prolific users of digital banks. Because we may actually say that I only have 50 or 100 ringgit. Now I put in my wallet, it's not earning interest. In these digital banks, they'll start saying your 50 or 100 ringgit will start earning interest. But the question is not that, can they make money? Because if you look at Grab and a lot of players, right, they're still not making money, partially because they are investing. And the investment in tech is super high. The investment in marketing and everything else. So you need to think of a sustainable model for you to make money. The banks have figured out the way. The digital banks need to figure it out themselves as well.
Thank you, Wai Hun, and from the audience online as well as physical, your questions are so good. I think we'll love to have you again next time. Yes, thank you very much. Okay.